We're live.
Hello! It's been a few weeks.
Yes.
Have you forgotten us?
I have.
You forgot
Who are you?
us? Oh my.
Sorry.
At least the kids went to bed easily tonight.
Yeah.
So that's nice.
Hopefully they are.
I thought it was fine the way it was.
My face is under the chat box.
Oh, I see. The chat box. Hopefully the chat box will be utilized.
Hopefully.
But it was so interesting what you were talking about. It's like, and there's things I wanted to talk about this whole Ukraine situation, but we have 2 5-year-olds who can understand a lot. Hello, Gia. And it's like, I didn't want to be saying like in front of them, yeah, I heard that 14 kids have died.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. It's It's a rough and crazy thing.
How is all of this Ukraine Russia stuff affecting you over there in Germany, Gia? I'd be interested to hear that.
Yeah.
She says she's never ever forgotten us. Yay! But it's okay to be half asleep. We're half asleep all the time.
Yes.
Especially me, because he snores. The beauty of marriage.
And right now, like all of a sudden, like I've gotten this like nose colds or something, or there was something stuck in my nose, but my nose has been really stuffy all evening.
Aww.
I mean, like sneezing and blowing my nose.
That's so annoying.
So I would like to apologize in advance for tonight, or I will just be prepared to sleep out here with the cats.
Aww.
I have not forgotten how to be eloquent, but I never knew how to be it.
Yes.
That was quite eloquently put, Gia.
That was very eloquent.
So, are you lying to us?
Wait.
I don't know.
But yeah, I had a, yeah, it's the, yes, the Ukraine stuff is a topic over here as well. It's all over the world. And I read this really cool thing that Putin really underestimated the effect of social media in uniting the world. Like, in trying to paint this narrative that like people see straight through because they literally see in real time what's happening to people.
Yeah, it's amazing, like the effects that it has, and how this really looks like it is now finally like emboldening Russians to speak out against him. Which is something no one is there to do, but it's like
that takes serious courage.
But there are now, and that is also like, speaking of social media, that is sort of like, it is like Russian like social media stars, influencers who are using their platforms to speak out against the war.
Did you hear about the guy who tried to sink a super yacht that belonged to a known Russian criminal?
Yes.
The only thing he managed to do was damage it a bit.
I did not hear about that, but yeah.
He's like, I don't regret it.
Yeah, but we were talking a bit about like how that's affecting things here in Sweden and all that.
Because there's a lot I don't know about the world. So like somebody I talked to earlier, I had a conversation with this guy for a future podcast conversation, and he was talking about not wondering if Sweden was going to join NATO. And like, I don't even really know what NATO is.
So
maybe I learned about stuff in school, but that was literally 20 years ago.
So what phrase is NATO an abbreviation of?
Oh no. National armed, really.
There's not even R in NATO.
Nuclear armament, testosterone ovaries. I don't know.
The North Atlantic Treaty Organization.
I was so close. So, whoever liked this video is probably going to unlike it at this point. That would probably be yeah. So like so it's you are saying that if people are a part of this organization, then they have to fight when they're called to fight. Like you stand with us when we need you, and we'll stand with you when you need us.
Yes.
Okay.
Which so far, I recently read about this, that it has only been like the treaty has only been invoked once.
Okay.
And it was when and it was after 9/11.
Oh yeah, that's what Kai Ping was talking about. That or was it you?
I don't know.
That because America called other countries in, or America was called in to go. Was it to go against Iraq or Afghanistan? Afghanistan.
Mainly. Well, I think and Iraq.
Okay, so Sweden's like, we do not want to be pulled into some war we don't believe in.
Yeah, and it's been because that's the sort of thing that Sweden has always been opposed to joining NATO because we see ourselves as a peaceful nation. Like we have not, like, once we stopped fighting the Danish in the 19th century, we were like, okay, we're done with wars now. we've had enough of them, and we have not been involved in a war since then.
Yeah,
like for over 200 years.
If World War II couldn't pull you in,
yeah,
I wonder how much pressure there was to get involved in that.
There's quite a lot, but it was also like it was certainly that was such a strange situation where it was sort of like a by the time like we could have gotten involved, the Germans were already at our doorstep and far more prepared and well equipped than us, and so it was, you know, there can be a lot of debate back and forth whether or not it was the right decision, but it was certainly the safer decision to. The safer decision
was to give Germany what they wanted, basically.
Well, no, we traded with both sides.
Right, yeah. You supplied like steel. Sweden supplied steel to both sides, didn't they?
Yeah. Which is, you know, another thing.
It goes into the whole question of now, which is how much do you sacrifice to survive?
Yeah.
Because that's the whole thing, that Gotland is such a strategic place for being in the middle of the Baltic, a trading post and all that jazz.
Yeah.
So the dilemma is join NATO and get protection, and or don't stick to the morals of not joining wars, and possibly what would happen? What would happen if Russia could Russia take over Gotland?
I mean, yeah, but it's highly likely because even without NATO, we still have like other treaties and military cooperations with the other Nordic countries and with the EU and things like that. So Russian aggression against Sweden, like we would still like have allies helping us, and so it's well, I would say that it's unlikely that they would try anything like that. But with what's been happening lately, impossible to really know.
Oh, goodness. And remember that article I sent you about how Putin, gonna say his name French because it's fun. Oh, yeah, ich bin here. That Putin thinks that it's a holy war. That it goes into the religious imagination of Russia.
Yeah.
That the Ukraine is like part of their holy land.
Because it was in Kiev that the the Russian Orthodox Church was founded. So it's
a religious heritage thing, and he thinks that he's sent by God.
Yep.
And so that is making it 100 billion times scarier. Because if he thinks he's doing it for God, then he would sacrifice anything, believing that God's on his side and is going to give him the victory.
Yeah. But so there's a situation, and even but I was gonna say, but back to the whole NATO thing of like that. So Sweden has always been opposed to joining, like, or Swedes in general. Now, several I think majority of the Swedish Parliament are now all of the sort of both the mid block and the right block sort of want to at least start a NATO cooperation, more of a direct cooperation with NATO in Sweden, and several parties are also in favor of directly joining NATO. I'm still personally on the fence about it, but as I said to Katie earlier today, that's actually a pretty big thing, because if you had asked me a month ago, I would have said Sweden, that I was absolutely opposed to Sweden joining NATO. But at this point, when it is so much more of a this is a real thing that is happening in front of our eyes, it's so hard to stick to that sort of convictions really get tested in times like these.
I'm smiling not because of you, but because in the comments, Akia said, "What did I miss?" Hi, Akia, by the way. You missed, and you said, you missed all the history of all the wars ever.
Not all of them.
But, because Mårten is 100% pacifist.
Yes.
But pacifist isn't taking someone's life. If someone was going to attempt to hurt us, the kneecaps are a bit fuzzy.
Yeah. It's about yes, you can use force, appropriate force to defend yourself. And this is also just was what I've learned from it's from a legal standpoint too, how most countries how the law state is that you can defend yourself using force up to and including what someone else is using or threatening to use against you, except lethal force. There is or pretty much or sometimes or at least for me, I'm to me that's a hard limit for me. I do believe that there are times where you might have to use force, but I think that it's never acceptable to take another life. That is a very strong conviction that I have, and that I don't think I could ever that I hope I would never bend on, no matter the situation. But
we weren't meant to do that. It messes people up
so bad.
I used to be anti-pacifist, pro-death penalty, all this stuff, but I've done a complete shift over. No, I'm pacifist. I'm anti-death penalty. So many things. I just went along with them because that's what my parental figures believed in. That just another way that I don't agree.
Yeah.
What was that thing about the different political parties? All of the political parties in Sweden voted to join except the one.
No, that was, and that in itself was, but that in itself was a big thing. Was just about sending direct military aid to the Ukraine.
Oh yeah, what was it?
They would,
Artillery?
yeah, like just a shipment of artillery shells, but just providing weaponry to a party in an active armed conflict is something that like has also been a big no in like Swedish political culture, and it's especially, but it's now been like no, we feel that there is a clear like that this is a conflict where we feel comfortable taking sides. So
This is like Sweden's like the Star Trek. Don't get involved.
the prime directive.
Prime directive.
I mean, it's a bit, yes.
Okay. Now Akia tries offering an idea for a good NATO acronym.
That's it. Now Alkit tries offering. That is NATO.
NATO. Aki says, on one hand, I 100% agree, but I still think that if it's a life or death situation and it really is you or them, it's okay to defend your own life. But let's face it, that is hardly ever the case. Usually there are other means to subdue.
Yes.
But like, if you didn't mean to kill someone, but you accidentally did because
Yeah.
you were protecting yourself, I think that's okay.
And here's the thing. I'm going to say that if it was me or them, I would usually be okay with me dying.
But it's
If
not
it was
just you.
if it was my daughters, that might change the equation significantly.
Yeah.
That's
But I would not like you to just throw your life around. I kind of need you a little bit.
I know, yeah, but it's still like it's the whole thing of like I believe, like I am such a strong believer in redemption, but also that, you know, to have a second chance, to have another chance at doing life right, you need to be alive, and that's why I was like, so for me, that's just the idea of removing the option of turning your life around from someone is just like, that to me is just so unthinkable, because I personally believe that isn't just about what happens here and now, but it's about what happens in eternity. And that just makes it so hard to think.
That's so true. But it's like so many problems are systemic, and
Yeah.
it's that person trying to kill you is a victim of their circumstances, and the only way there's no way to remove them of their circumstances in that moment.
Yeah.
Like, there's this amazing show, and I'm going to ruin it a little bit for somebody who hasn't watched it. Sorry, but I need to. Lock and Key. Do you know what moment I'm thinking about? The boy was there, and he was there to trying to get the keys, these magic keys.
Yeah.
And there's this key that can go in the back of the neck that can take you out of yourself so that you can go into your own mind. Yeah. And in this moment of absolute tension and darkness, and he is so cold and hard, they turn the key in his head so he's outside of his body, and he's just immediately changed. He said, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that. He's a completely broken person once he's out of the immediate stress of that moment.
Once he's able to actually see his actions from the outside,
yeah,
it just completely breaks him.
And that's how I can't believe in an everlasting torment of hell anymore. Like, sure, there's punishment, but there comes a point when it would have to be enough.
Yes.
When you would acknowledge that you were wrong, be sorry, and either face oblivion or
Or redemption.
Or redemption.
Yeah.
Like, those are the only two options that literally make any sense.
Yeah.
Heavy, heavy stuff. Here we are.
Yeah.
Are you having a good time?
Yes.
Let's talk about war, baby. Let's take about eternity.
It's funny that like we're talking about war, but then we took a light detour
into
the theology of judgment.
Just another light and easy live stream with Katie and Mårten.
Oh goodness.
Oh,
Did we just drop a viewer?
Let's see. Oki says, I feel what Katie says there. I also feel like I value the life of my boyfriend higher than he does. Yeah, sometimes I guess one of these days we might just have to pick up a machine gun and defend our loves because they won't do it themselves. I need you, dang it. Oki says, the thing with war is there's so much propaganda and misinformation.
Yep.
That I think that soldiers hardly ever really know what they're fighting for. They usually think they are doing the right thing. Exactly. Like, nobody would do anything if they didn't think it was the right thing and they weren't pushed into that. Yeah. Especially taking someone else's life. Yeah. To have to be so hardened against that. And like, oh gosh. Finding out that people that my family respected, this guy named Pat Robertson, like came out of retirement to defend Putang and say that he's doing God's work and getting rid of bad people. Like, what the actual beep? Beep, I say, beep. Beep, 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 beep. Vor meinem eigenen Tod ist mir nicht bang, nur vor dem Tode derer, die mir nahe sind. Is this not High German?
No,
is that Plattdeutsch?
No, I think it's just.
I understand. For my own death, I don't bang.
I think that's just like
that. I don't care.
Yeah, or I don't like. I don't shy away from it, or like.
But for the death of others
who are close to me.
Yeah. So Aki said, "What acronyms did you come up with?" Okay. Here we go. What was it? Don't tell me. Don't tell me what I said. I'm trying to remember.
Or you can just come up with a new one.
I can come up with a new one, but she wanted to hear the funny one.
Yeah.
Oh, bang is scared. Bang. Makes sense?
Yeah.
National Orderly Testosterone Ovaries.
Except, I think it was National Atomic.
National Atomic. Yeah, atomic.
Testosterone ovaries.
Testosterone ovaries. I'm funny. Yes. What was the one that Aki came up with again?
I think she hasn't told us yet. Oh. If she did, I missed it. Oh, there. Now, no one attacked the others.
There we go. Good one, Akia.
Yeah, that's...
No one attacked the others.
I mean, that's pretty much... Right.
Yakpin here said, you didn't just deny eternal damnation, did you? That would be an extremely problematic doctrine to get wrong, because without it, it would imply Jesus didn't really save us from anything much.
Well, I mean, what we're saying is that with Jesus saving us, like that's the whole point. Is that, and also like the whole thing of we don't know how it works. Like we said that that it could like. I still think that eternal oblivion is still an option that fits the theology on all sides, which is sort of funny that it was like. That was one of the things that I thought was like strange about the Adventists was that they believed in oblivion instead of torment. And now I'm like, yeah, no, that I think like I am more and more on their side on that point of view these days.
But there are the Jesus died to save you from your sins and eternal torture is a fairly new version of Christianity.
Yeah.
Like, it's very old Christianity that all shall eventually be saved and redeemed.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's a lot of resources out there. It's much better to go to the old, the mystics, the
Desert Fathers.
the desert fathers.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Wow, we're really hitting all of the notes of like, but I mean that's sort of, yeah, we knew this was going to be a heavier stream.
Yeah.
We didn't expect it to take this direction, but that's
No, this is a deconstructing process that I've been in for a while now.
yeah.
Like, there's things that were so clear that, like, when you finally allow some questions in, it feels much better. Like, I saw this great meme of, Padawan and Anakin,
Mm-hmm.
Natalie Portman and
Oh, you mean
Christensen,
Padme?
Padme saying, like, what is it? Jesus died to save you from hell, but who created hell? Who created hell?
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, imagine being a god, loving your creation and wanting what is best for them, and then they go around saying you are this horrible being that will make them suffer for eternity. That would be a very sad god. Yeah.
I love you so much that I'm going to cause you to suffer forever if you don't love me. That sounds like an abusive, horrible, narcissist.
Yeah, I have never liked the phrasing it as damnation in the first place, like because damnation implies that it is something that is placed on you, because even in my least charitable interpretation of it, I have always seen it as that it is just the immediate effect of choosing not to be with him, and because even in eternity, in the absence of light and love would that's more than enough torture on its own.
And how if God
and that would be without God would not need to actively, there's no need for God to actively lay damnation and torment on anyone in that, no matter what. Even in that interpretation, that's just the idea of an eternity without him. It's what else? Why would you need to add to that?
And I think God's supposed to be better than people. Like, I wouldn't cause someone to suffer forever.
Yeah.
For something. Not even our flawed justice systems of our different countries.
Yeah.
Forever. We have no concept of forever.
Yeah, and there is actually, the Bible never speaks of eternal damnation. It talks about being, thrown in the fire where there will be, wailing and gnashing of teeth, but it doesn't say that anyone would stay. Doesn't say how long that will last.
Like, there's things in there, like this fire doesn't go out kind of stuff. Those are references to a geographical location where there's always some garbage burning.
Yeah, they were he was talking about.
It was contextualizing.
Yeah,
to that culture.
Yeah, it was it's doing yes, sinning is like that pile of garbage right over there that you can see from the place where I'm talking about this. That's the context of that. It wasn't some amorphous otherworldly thing.
Ooh, I'm watching this TV show Lucifer, and the concept of hell there is so fascinating. There's no lock on the door. People can leave at any time, but it's their own guilt that creates the scenarios that they are the loops they are stuck in.
Yeah.
They put themselves there.
Yep.
And the hell theology keeps mythology, I should say, keeps people from feeling like they have anything to do now. Like going back to Ukraine, Russia. Like, oh, suffering is just a part of it.
Yeah.
Like it's supposed to suck here on earth because it'll be so much better then. If you love Jesus. If you don't love Jesus, then you're doomed. And only white Jesus, of course, because of course God didn't talk to any other culture in any other country at any other point in history.
Yeah. I just get so frustrated about all like the theology of suffering that just misses the also very important thing is that you are not supposed to like the you are supposed to look inside yourself when you are suffering and find the presence of God within it. But it's like, but most of the people who speak about suffering are placing that on other people. They're like, it is good that they are suffering. It's like, no. You should think that it is good when you are suffering. You should never think it's good that anyone else is suffering. Like, the Bible is very clear on that point.
Yeah. Like, Jesus was a social justice person.
Yeah.
It was about defending people that didn't have a voice. The orphans, the widows, the lepers, the handicapped, the queer. Yeah, there's queer people in the Bible. Eunuch was code for queer back in those days.
I mean, yeah, it's a eunuch is by definition a non-binary person.
Yeah,
like, that's
like, and now it's like because but it's only about heaven and hell. Then it means you don't need to do anything now. So ridiculous. Yeah, like you said, if you can explain away Revelations 20:10, you can explain away any scripture regarding eternal torment.
And the devil who deceived them was thrown into the lake of burning sulfur, where the beast and the false prophet have been thrown. They will be tormented day and night forever and ever. So that mentions the devil, the beast, and the false prophet. Okay, the three of them, which are also like those are also like in this case like symbolic of like those are concepts of the things that lead humans astray.
Also, my friend
yeah.
Dale, our friend Dale, made a wonderful documentary. I will link about how pretty much all the things in Revelations already happened in AD 70.
Yeah.
All of these people, the beast, were actual historically recognized figures.
Yes.
So much of Revelations is irrelevant and has nothing to do with end times.
Or if it does, it's like we are missing more than half of the context for everything.
Because apocryphal writing was really common in those times. It was giving
allegorical. Yeah.
If it was giving the Christians of these times hope of looking at things from this distant perspective.
Yeah.
The Revelations isn't the only book that was written in that style.
Yeah. But yeah, so this is like so this was about like, hey, these three guys that are making your life hard right now, God's going to deal with them. That's what John was saying here.
Yeah, it was in looking at it in the context, the cultural context of those people. It is an encouraging, wonderful message.
Yeah.
But people spend so much time and have spent so much time trying to twist it to fit what's happening in history now.
Yeah.
Like 88 Reasons Jesus is coming back in 1988. Spoiler! He didn't.
Yeah, it was like, oh, let me see here. Wait, what was this? No one knows the day or the hour? Huh. Funny that.
Yeah. It's marketed to people to feel like they have some control over history, and to feel like America's more important than it is. Like, pretty sure America, absolutely 1000% sure, America is not mentioned in the Bible.
But you know, there are plenty of things in there that can be, you know, that can allegorically be applied to America. But the thing is, most of the time, the Americans are wrong about who they are in the allegory.
We're the Gentiles.
It's like, yeah, like if you're looking at, you know, yeah, the American, like, unfortunately, the average American is far more likely to be Babylon than Israel. Unfortunately,
I'm really looking forward to sharing my conversation with one of the authors of this book, Mark Charles. Like, it's gonna get a really, really good title, like "America is not a Christian nation" or something. Something that's really gonna get me a lot of thumbs downs. That's the goal.
Yeah. Well, hey, they removed the dislike counter, so you know.
Yeah, so only I'll know. But about how, so much in here about how America, not just America, it's been going on for quite a while. Doctrine of Discovery, 1400s, Christopher Columbus, is taking Jewish promises and applying them to themselves without any rights to it.
Yeah. Like, I remember, this was the sermon that I heard in America, but it was really good. Where he was talking about, you know, one of the verses that people love to quote, like, I know the plans that I have for you. Plans to, you know,
plans for you, not to harm you. Plans to give you hope in a future. Jeremiah 29:11.
And it's like, have you read the rest of the chapter? Like, the rest of the chapter is about how, you know, oh, you are not where you want to be, and the only, like, and God is saying that, no, accept your circumstances, deal with it, seek the good of the place where you are, even if that's not where you want to be, because I have plans to prosper you where I have placed you, even if you don't like it.
Wait, that really applies, doesn't it? Isn't that when they were being sent to Babylon?
Yes.
And there's so many false prophets in that time that was like, everything's gonna be fine. God is with us. There's not gonna be any troubles. All these false prophets.
Well, no. The thing was the false prophets right there. The false prophets that he's talking to right there are the ones who were saying, like, yes, we're going to go back to the way things were.
Status quo.
We're like, God will be leading us back to Israel, and and we're going back to the good old days. And I was like, no. Things are going to happen here, where you are. Things have changed, and things will keep changing. Deal with it. That's what that verse means.
And now we're in a generation of all the false prophets. Trump was the rightful winner. He's the savior. People are going to think of things as before Trump and after Trump.
Yeah.
And Paula White and all these people that just lie. They're just grifters. They're deluded.
Yeah, but man, wow, really, like the same thing of, like, the prophets there said that we will go back to Israel where things will be good, even though things were never good in Israel. Like, the whole thing of, like, they were taken out of there because the nation was overrun by sin and corruption, and it's like, but they were convinced that, no, Israel was the good old days and we're going back there. Like, doesn't that remind you of something?
Make Israel great again.
Mm-hmm.
Holy shalom. And America was never great. It's built on false promises. It's built on the murder of hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of Native Americans. Yeah. Built on the blood and backs of black people. It was never ever great, and it was never a Christian nation.
Well, this isn't Ukraine we're talking about now.
No,
Although
I feel like it's all connected.
Yeah, it's all connected.
Here,
Yes.
just reading the back of this. Healing begins when deeply entrenched beliefs are unsettled. That's deconstruction.
Yeah.
It's getting unsettled. It's questioning. It's digging in beyond just what we were taught. Healing begins when deeply entrenched beliefs are unsettled. As other nations have instituted truth and reconciliation commissions. Well, that's not that. That doesn't exactly go along, but.
Yeah.
Akia says, I like how informed you are about what was written in the historical context. Yeah, it's really something I'm really passionate about, both of us.
Yeah.
I'm so thankful that Dale made this documentary. I ate it up. It was a couple hours, but it was so good. And he's making one digging into these doctrines of hell. Because so much of what we're taught was Dante's Inferno. And it's a mixture of Greek and Roman mythology and whatever other mythology people.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like the image of the devil, like the way we all pictured the devil.
It's from silent movies, isn't it?
Well, I mean, it goes it goes back further than that.
Okay.
But it's like, but it was just one of those things of like the devil has goat hoofs and horns. Huh. It's funny. That's like Dionysus or Bacchus from Greek and Roman mythology.
Oh, yeah.
Like it was just a like the whole our image of the devil was just a guy stop drinking so much. Because he was, Dionysus was the god of wine and partying. And so it was just a like they were using that image to say like no, excessive drinking is of the devil. Like they're like chill your partying. That's the whole thing. That's the only reason we think the devil looks like that. There is no biblical like reason for the devil to look that way. It's just at least I'm not 100% sure. Like don't quote me too hard.
I've read the Bible a few times through. There's no mention of a red cloven tail pitchfork character.
Yeah, and then that. So that was sort of where it started, and then it went into also, it was just so much of it was just medieval art. Like it's just artistic license.
In some art, Moses has horns because of a mistranslation.
Yes, it was.
There's the glory. The word for glory and the word for horns was similar.
Yeah, like in the Hebrew, like horn, the word for horns and the word for strength were the same, and so his face was surrounded by a strong light, but then they were like, oh, but he had horns of light, and then they just drew him with horns.
So that just is like showing how things get twisted in translation.
Yeah.
But another thing that I've been growing and changing and accepting inside is when I feel a serious us versus them mentality, I'm like, that's not right. That's not it. It's black and white dualistic thinking that God gets us into so many wars and messes.
Yeah, because so bringing it back to the whole thing of like that there are like a few people who wanted this war and started the war. Most of the people who are fighting in it are completely unaware of why it is happening. The whole thing, they have been handed a lie and given no opportunity to learn anything else. And they that was the thing I read about. It was like some major skiing competition or something, but it was somewhere. But it was some sort of sport thing. It was a Russian athlete who was being interviewed. It was like, how does it feel to be here competing there's this war going on, and he was like, what war? Like in Ukraine? Ukraine? Oh, well, that's not a war. That's a rescue mission. And he genuinely believed that. And this was a professional athlete who was, traveling around. So he was not just stuck in Russia with Russian media. I think he was, I don't know where, he was, somewhere else in Europe. So he could have turned on the news anywhere else in the world and seen what everyone else was saying. But it would probably never cross his mind that would be a good thing to do. Because he's been told his whole life that
those other countries lie.
Yes, that's
Fake news.
The Russian state tells us the truth. And so he genuinely believed that no, we're just there to rescue our people who are being held hostage by the Ukrainian government. Yeah.
That's what you said a second ago about have never had the chance to learn a different perspective.
Yeah.
That's one of the three things I'm so passionate about my podcast conversations is that it can open up people's perspective to lives and experiences that they would never hear about otherwise.
Yeah, I mean that's something that we've always been passionate about.
Yeah.
That's why we did Covenant Players.
Yeah.
Like that's a big part of that was like using drama as an educational tool because it allows you to see things from new perspectives.
Yeah.
Like it's something that we've always been passionate about. And so
yeah.
Good night, Aukyo.
Good night. Thanks for being here.
Yeah.
Sorry that it's so heavy right before bed.
Yeah. I think we're probably not going to keep going for much longer there because this is getting to me a bit too.
What do you mean?
Like just that it is like mind is just racing a bit too much, and I'm like,
well, that's where I was pulling it back,
yeah.
and pulling it back from the mind racing.
Yeah,
is the dualistic thing is what makes the mind race and makes the hopelessness feelings come. But I still believe in a God that can redeem it all.
Yeah.
Not just for the sake of heaven, but for the sake of now.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the very big thing. Oh, hey Monique.
Hey Monique. Thanks for listening to us rant and rave.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah, we're very passionate people, but yeah, there's a thing that I've been learning lately that sometimes we just gotta stop thinking and just be.
Yeah.
And just be and just feel your body, feel where your upset feelings are, feel anything that needs to be felt, and then let it go. And breathe. And you don't have to have words for everything, and we're not going to fix everything. And I know I'm not going to reach the world, but I hope that I can reach a lot of people in my conversations, and those conversations aren't to change them. They're to give them a chance to see that, like I've got conversations coming up with women who are in abusive marriages to see they can get out.
Yeah.
There is hope. You don't have to keep suffering. Yeah. And if one person can hear that and get that idea planted in their head, then it is worth it.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be angry at people who believe differently than I did, just like I did when I believed completely differently.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really tricky. But
it's not moving from one camp to another. It's so silly.
Yeah. But it is such a deeply ingrained thing.
Yeah, we're tribal, associating people.
This is really interesting thing that I learned about, where it talked about how that's sort of a big problem is that humans have this built-in need for conflict, for feeling because we were so much of our history was tribalism. Mm-hmm. And so it's very deep seated in our nature. that is the easiest way for our brains to process the world is within us and them. And then they said, like, the problem is now, so now it becomes a problem when people say that, no, we should all be united. Because then, because, like they said, that's part of why politics has become so polarized, is because of the belief that we should all be united. Because then, if you genuinely believe that we should all be thinking the same way, then the people who don't think the same way as you are morally wrong.
Oh.
Well, before they were just wrong.
But it's really, really rough, especially when it comes to a point that is so important to me. And I know some of my good friends here is LGBTQ rights.
Oh yeah.
Like when the side that says you shouldn't exist, you're wrong.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Like, that is wrong. It is undeniably wrong to tell people they shouldn't exist.
Well, yes. Yeah.
And to deny them rights and to.
But the problem is, so then the problem is because you like, but there, it's so hard to actually get a useful conversation moving it with those things, because it is now purely a moral, like it's become a moral issue, and there is no other issue like that to sort of to compete over. Like, you can't, like, everyone, like, politically, like, everyone believes that, yeah, we need to have better school, like, we need to have schools and healthcare and this, that, and the other, then, like, but, and then, so now it becomes much more of, like, those other details that you have to fight about. And so then basically people get trapped in the middle of that. Yeah. It takes a certain level of maturity to recognize that unity does not necessarily mean thinking the same about everything. Yeah. But then still finding these things that we should all think the same about.
Yeah.
And
that was like my
my
conversation with Kate, a beautiful trans woman. I hope that somebody heard her story about how much pain she was in until she was able to be her authentic self. Yeah. And this conversation with the beautiful young man who went through conversion therapy, who just begged and begged and pleaded for God to take away his gayness. Yeah. It doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And that's how I hope and believe that stories can change the world, and people sharing their experiences. Like my conversations with people talking about racism, for those of us that have never experienced that, to hear their stories and be able to see them through a different lens, seeing people through that different lens, that we can just go to be compassionate, because that's something that no matter where you've fallen in theologically, if compassion's not leading us, there's the problem.
Yeah. And that's the thing of, like, what does compassion look like? The whole thing of, like, that Sweden has had to come to, like, bringing it back to, the actual topic of the video, that Sweden has had to come to terms with, today, compassion might take the form of a shipment of 5,000 artillery shells. Like, that is a way that Sweden is showing compassion, which
it's really hard for a pacifist to wrap their mind around. Huh?
Yeah, but it's like, and I'm like, I still don't know how to feel about it, but I cannot deny that I can understand why that is happening.
I haven't watched a lot of videos because I know it would just break my heart, but I saw one where this father was just saying goodbye to his daughter, just sobbing, putting her hair behind her ear, adjusting her hat and coat, just weeping, not knowing if he'd ever see his little girl again. Like,
because my understanding is that like they are trying to evacuate women and children, but men between the ages of 18 and 60 are not allowed to leave the country because they have to be prepared to take up arms if need be.
Imagine if that happened to you. Yeah. Imagine if you were forced to fight.
Yeah. I mean, I think I would request, or I would demand to be placed in some sort of position where I would not have to take up arms.
Like medical or
engineering or something. I don't know what, but yeah. Because I would say that no, I will not.
But what if it was tactical things? Like you're organizing the deaths of others, but not being the one to pull the trigger.
Oh, let's hope. I mean, that's so strange to think.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but
this is reality for all these people right now.
Yeah, I know. I have a cousin who she did military service. Like she volunteered for it, and because it's never been mandatory for women to do it in Sweden. But she wanted to do it, but she specifically applied for anti-air defense, that side of artillery, because she was because that way she knew that she could never be part of aggression. She chose a branch of the military that is focused entirely on defense against attacks, because that was sort of that was where she drew her line. And that's the thing, we all draw our lines at different places, but I think it's important to at some point at least think about it and look at where you draw your line and why you do so. Because that's the thing. Yeah, we talk about there was one party, the leftist party, formerly known as the Communist Party of Sweden. They
rebranded.
They rebranded. Yes, they went. They have gone slightly softer, because communism implies at least a degree of anti-democracy, at least for certain parts of the process. And so they were like, yeah, we're leaving that part of our history behind, but they still have a lot of the same, the core positive values that come of working together for the good of the common person, or the common man, the common people. That they've retained that core, but then changed a lot of the procedural things around it. But anyway, so they have a clear party line of no involvement in active armed conflict. They have very strict. So they were the only party that did not vote yes to the motion to supply Ukraine with arms. But even that party were they were sort of cracking a bit on that line. There were several of their representatives who abstained, and there's been a big discussion within the party. I think I saw somewhere that they were talking about calling a special gathering of the party to discuss the possibility of changing that part of the party manifest, because now
it's different now.
Now that the rubber meets the road, we might have to reevaluate this position. So that's the whole thing. Know where you draw the line, know why you draw it there, and when you get new information, be prepared to move your line.
There's no shame in changing.
Yeah, there's no shame in changing your mind as long as you do so, as long as you can motivate why you have done so. You can explain to yourself and others, and
and you can live with yourself.
Yes.
Sorry, I interrupted.
Yeah. Well, you're not the only interruption.
Oh no, not Akira.
Well, we've been streaming for an hour.
I guess we can say bye-bye.
Yes, at least I will. If you and Kira want to stay on stream for a few minutes.
I'm quite tired too.
Yes. Well, yeah, this went a lot of different ways. We did talk a bit about what we said we were going to talk about, and then talked about stuff that we're passionate about, and yeah, it's like so we talked about two main topics here: politics and religion.
Yeah, exactly what you're supposed to talk about.
Well, I mean, from my understanding, that's what actually gets views.
We'll see. I didn't do this for the views. I did it because I'm genuinely invested.
Yeah.
Just for the views or whatever. But if anybody resonates...
How many cats do we have?
We have 2 cats.
Yes.
Kira and Carlson.
Carlson is probably napping somewhere.
I have footage from our last day with all 6 of them crying, saying goodbye to Kalikala. But I just haven't done anything with it yet. Yeah. All right. Hugs.
Good night.
Nostrils of death.